I would like to introduce you to Mr. Joshua Dixon. How are you, Joshua?
I'm doing great. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I just fawned over you like you were one of my kids or something. I don't know what happened. I'm so excited to have you here
Uh,
because I really love what you do so much.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here, and I'm like sorry for it taking so long to get back to you, but you're right. I wake up every morning, and I'm always forever excited to just to continue doing what I'm doing with not just the my word, but planning new and next things of how to use my story to help others and how to
That's
use what I've been through, all of the trauma, all of the sticks and stones that have been thrown into my journey, and how can I use that to grow a garden of roses.
exactly how can you use that? Because there was a lot of darkness and you thought that you had been buried, but in fact you had been planted and now you're blooming. So that's the thing that we all have to do, and you are doing it so very well. I want to tell everyone before we hear your story that along with the package I got from Admireware was this card that says your story is far from over. Help is available. And I'm going to keep this. I got two of them. One I'll give away and one I'll keep because on the back is the suicide prevention hotline, domestic violence hotline, sexual assault hotline, helpingsurvivors.org, and the Trevor Project. Just all sorts of things to be involved with and all sorts of things that can help you if you're one of the survivors watching us tonight. I also got some really cool wristbands, take a deep breath, and um, what is this one? Tomorrow is worth fighting for. So I usually make it past the intro before I cry. Tell me your story. Tell us your story. How how did you get here? How did this end up being your purpose that you're walking in? What I know you sustained an injury at an early age.
Yes. When I was 8 years old, so I'm from Chicago and born and raised here. And I mean, before I was born, my family would grow and breed pit bulls, and they were like loving dogs. Never had any issues. They might have done crazy things like like I don't know, like knock us into the snow and stuff like that. Like really loving dogs, and so I wasn't afraid of pit bulls before what happened. But it was just a normal day. My mom had just had surgery a few weeks prior, um, and my dad would walk me to school. But this particular day, usually I walk home from school by myself. I can get home safely, and I enter in through the back gate, while my brother enters in through the front door when he comes home because he was old enough to have house keys. I wasn't old enough to have house keys, so the back gate would always be unlocked.
Right.
And this day, out of the blue, also I forgot to mention that my father, but more so my parents, thought of one of they decided to watch one of their friends' dogs. And we didn't know the history of this dog, but this dog was with us for about 6 months before the incident happened. And it seemed like it was being a part of our family, even though me and my brother didn't really like the dog.
Oh,
But it made sort of kind of like it didn't feel like any of our other dogs that we've grown up with. It just
right.
felt like it was kind of like hostile towards us, but we didn't have any assurance of that. So we never really like fully played with him. We just played with our own pups that we had.
Right.
And this particular day, as I was coming home, I was trying to enter the yard, and the boy dog, which was the dog that's foreign to our family, tried to leave the yard. I convinced him to come back into the yard because it was kind of like on instinct. This all happened in a very short span of time, and in my head, in my head, I had thought about what my dad has always told us, that he'd be upset if we ever let a dog leave the yard because now he has to deal with that. And like I'm a little 8-year-old kid, getting this dog come back into the yard. And when I did close the gate, seems like a regular day. It was barely snowy, and I slipped on some ice near the by the back gate. At like, but it was closed though, and I slipped on some ice, and that's where the attack started to happen. And I was attacked by the boy dog, but the girl dog, which was my dog, she tried to save my life, and she did the best that she could. And thankfully, that because it was cold, that it was really cold, it was icy, and I had a leather jacket on, that all of the damage was sustained to my face. And thanks to her, even though that they both shared half of the damage, so there was a tug of war between me and the two dogs.
Right.
The boy dog trying to pull me into the garage where I knew instinctively that he was trying to kill me, and the girl
Yeah.
dog, which is my dog, trying to pull me to the house, which I knew was safety. And even though like she contributed to half of the damage, I
She said,
don't, I don't, I don't blame her for anything because she definitely did help. She helped her best, and I mean, helped me stay alive in that short time. And so all of that happened in 2 minutes. I lost 80% of my face. I lost most of my muscles and veins in my face, most of my cheeks. I mean, most of my lips. I lost my entire nose. Lost both ears. I lost my eyelid to my left eye, and I had a puncture to my cornea in my left eye. But it healed up, and so I still have my left eye in there.
"Oh, good."
And in that span of 2 minutes, I was just screaming stop, and I went through all that the things that people go through is like shock, not being able to feel pain after a certain while. And
Mhm.
my dad came outside, and he was just coming to see why was I so late, and he was the one that found me, got me in a house to where my mom could run next door because we didn't have a landline, and my mom ran next door and called 911. And the fire department actually was a few blocks away, so they came really fast and got me and took me to the hospital where I was conscious the whole entire time. I was telling them about everything about me, my grades in school. They made sure to keep me talking the whole entire time. And my dad, he was the one that went to the hospital with me, while my mom stayed at home, taking care of all of the legal things with the dogs, and
Yeah.
trying to find my ears and to see if they can like send them to the hospital so the hospital can put things back on. But she wasn't able to find anything that was worth sending for them putting back on. And I underwent a 26-hour surgery where they cauterized everything, and they said like if it wasn't for the snow, I wouldn't be here. I have lost so much blood, and I had like
So
there
really,
was so much exposed to that I could have been prone to any infections, that I could have died like instantly.
but it was so cold.
Yeah.
A lot of those things weren't present. That's just, by God, uh,
Yes.
dealt with that. And you said you still have your left eye, so you
Yes.
have. It's hard to. I didn't do light check with you properly because it's kind of dark. So, is
Yeah.
it
I'm sorry.
on it? If I thought
Um,
light check,
it's so there's it's a film called Tegaderm. Tegaderm is basically the what they use for IVs to hold your IV in place.
yeah.
I use that to keep the moisture and eye ointment like in there, and I clean it every 8 hours.
Do you,
It still tears, just like my right eye tears. Both of my tear glands are torn, so when they fill up, they just cry. So it looks like I'm crying, but probably like I might not be crying in that moment. And then when I am crying, I'm crying.
and you can see through that eye or through the left eye also, or
I
you
can
can,
see a little bit. It's very blurry. Sometimes it's a little clearer than others, but I've been told that I have a chance of using that eye again. But once technology gets better, because there hasn't been a such thing as them reconstructing eyelids with the living eye still being there. It's successful to do it without the living eye there, but I want to still have my eye.
and
So go
they
for it.
can they can do it. They can help you, and you are young enough. My
Yeah.
son grew up with Crohn's disease, and found out when he was about 7, and he ended up having to get some surgeries done that they wanted to make permanent, but he was 16 at the time. And I took a really big risk on it and said, no, I don't want this to be a permanent thing that he has to have the rest of his life. He's 16. There's so many opportunities for
Right.
things to change. And you're what, 20 something now? So,
I'm 20. I'm 23, and I agree. They've told me over and over again that you should just get it removed. You don't use it. It doesn't add value to your life. You should just remove it. And I was like, no, it's stable. It doesn't cause me any pain. I know how to take care of it. It's been in this condition for probably, I mean, pretty much since the accident.
yeah.
And the weird thing about it is that they've been trying to develop research on it. Is that every few months that it hurts itself for some reason, and it
Uh-huh.
creates like this plastic shield over the hole in front of the eye, and it stays there until it heals itself all over again. And they said that's been what's helping it live this long as well, with
That's
everything that is endured with it. So I'm like, that means it needs to stay.
right. It's doing something. And, my eyelids were completely reconstructed from my lower body. The only thing natural to my face is my bottom lip. Everything else is a skin graft from my
Mine
lower.
still, I still have my bottom lip, and this is really, this area here is really the only main part that exists from my original face.
See, and I've got just this and everything else. So it seems like they could fix your eyelid. And I think that you are young enough that it will come along and they'll fix it right up, because now my son has some opportunities that I finally just recently learned after 10 years, like, yes, I made the right decision to say, no, you can't permanently do that to a 16-year old. So my Wanda Johnson says, hi, I'm going to stop and say hello to a few people because I want to ask. Oh, they're talking about, I don't know, either my shirt or my hair. I think my shirt, because my shirt's pretty lovely.
You,
Joel, let's see. Here's a good friend of mine named Jeanette coming up. Joshua, she tuned in just to watch you. Good evening, Jeanette. She's a burn
good
survivor,
evening.
and she thank you, the shirts and the sayings. They love your sayings. So are they all original on your shirts? Hello,
Yes.
Tanya. You wrote them?
For Yeah, so I write them down. It's kind of funny because I used to work this job as a bike mechanic, and I used to be a supervisor of 17 other employees. 21-year-old being a supervisor of of this crew. They're an awesome crew. And during some moments, during like lunch, I was thinking a lot about affirmations. Affirmations helped me through my second suicide attempt, and
Right.
affirmations were kind of there for me during my first suicide attempt. And I kept trying to like thinking about this idea. It was like, how can I do something that I wish I had when I was struggling? And I love hoodies. I love hoodies. I love jogging wear. And I was like, I can do something with adding affirmations to hoodies that I haven't seen in a way before.
That everybody,
And say it again.
every that everybody wears a hoodie, or,
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear t-shirts and my joggers. I'm gonna live in this stuff all winter. It's a great
Yeah.
idea. I
Yeah.
do want,
And
you
go
said
for it.
your second suicide attempt. So you've had suicide attempts, and I understand because I've been there, and this is before I was ever burned. I've always struggled with depression and anxiety, especially. So I've felt depression and been in situations where, am I going to be safe or am I not? How do you get through it for someone who's watching? We have a lot of people watching. How did you get through to the other side? How did you get through the suicide attempts and to the point where you now want to live and help others live. Does that make sense? Like, how
Yeah,
did
yeah,
you?
no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
What helped for me was always having like my mom was always there for me when I through everything, through all of the surgeries, through just every experience. And so when I wrote my first suicide letter and I had like posted it on Facebook, um,
You
and
did.
yeah, my first suicide letter I posted it on Facebook and I didn't really know what to get from it, but that was really just, I guess, before the last straw, before I like pulled from my last straw. And my mom, she like forced me to go to counseling like the very next week. And
So
I would
you
like go say it again.
you posted it on Facebook in consideration of committing
Yeah,
suicide before it
yeah.
happened, but your mom saw it.
She saw it and she stepped in and she went all out. I mean, all out. And really, what the letter was about was just this feeling of hopelessness. I was
Right,
16 years old. I was 16 years old, and I was in this situation where I was getting bullied in public for the way that I looked. I was getting bullied in school for the way that I looked. I was being treated differently because of the way that I looked. No matter how hard I was trying to prove myself, even working 3 times as harder than I needed to try to be as equal to the next person, I was always seen as less than. And that hurt me so much. And then also for the fact that like I dealt with an abusive father after the accident and him moving on and like kind of starting a new family, and that really hurt because it felt like it was my fault. So there was all of this adversity that was going on where I felt like, and I was actually in this room when I made it. I felt like the only safe bubble that I had was either when I had my headphones and listening to music like Shawn Mendes, Justin Bieber, Chris Brown at the time, and making artwork. And I was making artwork at the same time that I made the letter. And the artwork was me trying to create something that can start a conversation, that can be this bridge point where two different people, me and someone else, can meet in the middle and have a conversation about adversity, about differences, about putting all of our biases aside and being able to create a space where we both can talk and maybe learn something from each other.
right.
And
Instead of, yeah, instead of
and
being so divided as we
yeah,
are at the time. Sorry,
right.
you're my dog. I'm sorry. It's
It's okay.
that. It'll be
It
done.
it it gave me hope, making that artwork. And when my mom interjected and kind of like when she came in my room that night and she kind of like confronted me about my note, and she's very like not upset but just really crying because she didn't understand. And she's also like a suicide survivor herself. I remember a few years prior to my attempt, she was changing my wounds, my dressings from one of my surgeries, and she was like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. And we talked about that moment that night where she found out about my letter, and she was like, if you want to talk about anything, like I'm here for you. And she had found out at the same like that same night I was making artwork, and she was like, I don't want you to be like the next Van Gogh, which is crazy because I never knew known about Van Gogh before that
Right.
moment.
That it.
But she was like, I don't want you to be the next Van Gogh. I don't want you to have all of this artwork of you using your story to help others, to be sitting here on your laptop collecting dust and you're not showing people. And then you just gone and then now here with these memories of you. I'd rather keep making memories with you rather than be what's left with what you leave behind. And the next week, she put me into counseling, and I learned all these different things about myself, and learning that taking it one day at a time, like it, so many people say that, like, take it one day at a time. But like, as a person with depression and PTSD and anxiety, and who has dealt with hate from so many different places of like where your heart is, and places where you feel like you should be safe, you're not safe. Um, Taking it one day at a time has really have helped me in understanding that I can't change how people act. I can't change how people treat me, but I can do what I can to, if someone is curious or someone wants to know about me, I am open to always telling them about what happened to me. It doesn't, when people ask, like, oh, what happened to your face? That's not an offensive question to me at all. I rather educate them about what happened to me because maybe it'll help them treat people who look like me differently.
And that's what
Or,
I, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, there is a certain level of face discrimination that I'm sure you've run into it by now because I've run into it on TikTok and on social media and
yeah.
things like that where your video gets taken down. If I use like a picture of my 1 year healed face, then my picture gets taken down.
I've had that happen. I showed, I have prosthetic ears that they clip on and off. The mounts that they're clip onto is like permanently screwed into my head.
Uh-huh.
And I made a video, and it's crazy because the video only like showed me just like slightly lifting up one of the ears just to show that they were like kind of
Yeah,
like how they work. That video got removed, and then like it put a strike on my account, and I was like so sad because I was like, maybe someone's out there that doesn't have ears. They don't know about these ears yet, and I was like,
that's
that could have gave them hope.
what I thought is like I exactly the same thought. And you know, I was trying to show that you could get from like where I was before the burns to 1 year healed where things looked pretty bleak to now. And the only difference now is that I've learned to use my makeup in a different way. But, you know, the main thing I learned is that the beauty is in here. You know, you don't always see me in my makeup anymore. I love makeup. Don't get me wrong. I love makeup. It's my art. You know, it's like what I use as art. But your beauty is inside, and I don't understand. You know, I have 5 strikes on mine for making videos, and I haven't done anything except show my 1 year healed face. No blood, no gore, no. Everybody's seen it, and it's face discrimination in that. You know, I read the community guidelines, and actual death is allowed to be shown on this platform. Actual death, as long as it's in the community's best interest. But why is it not in the community's best interest to learn about these ears? Because that's awesome. I know a lady that doesn't have ears from being burned, right? So that's awesome. I just did a video the other day about the adhesive eyebrows, and people are like, "What? Wow, that's amazing!" Because that's what we're trying to do is show people things, but the face discrimination is just far too much right now. And it's basically that you know, the things that you can find on social media that are offensive and just shocking. My face isn't one of those things, and neither is your ears.
Hmm.
So that's something that I am working on or trying to work on. I won't
Me
give
too.
you. I won't give up until
But
our faces are okay. We'll work
I
together.
I don't blame you. I've like I went to art school for 4 years. I went to two different universities where a lot of people didn't like me taking photos of myself. Where I like I've seen so much backlash on social media about my photography, but also just in so many different spaces, and it won't stop me because having being that kid, that 16-year-old that felt like his life was like over and helpless because of all these people told him to kill himself. Sometimes like I sit back as a 23-year-old and I look back at that and I was like, I don't know how I made it through that. But I was
People,
like, I know that there's kids that don't make it through that. And I was like, I want to be someone for people for that younger me. Like I want to be what younger me needed when younger me needed that most, and older me too. Not
people,
just younger kids, but older people as well, and current me.
people told you to kill yourself.
Yeah. I used to get notes in my locker. I've gotten many messages on Facebook, Instagram. I got hacked and got bullied off of Twitter. I've never used Twitter since. And I've seen comments on even my current TikTok on Amira's comment sections where I've seen people say like, "Oh, the world would be a better place without you," and like it hurts. It hurts sometimes, and I've been through stuff in public where I've got spitting on by an old white person in
Uh,
public.
spit
Uh,
on?
yeah, I've gotten spit on before, and
Why?
it's just I don't know, like people reaction to people who look different, and that motivates me. It makes me cry, but it also motivates me to just keep trying and to just keep trying and don't give up. Like if every day God bless me with the strength to live another day, I need to use that pain to grow roses with it. And that's one of the huge things about Amira. I don't know if you've noticed, but Amira is full of roses, rose designs. And roses was there for me when I couldn't have friends. When I had the accident, I was having all of my skin grafts. When you're having skin grafts, you're prone to infections. You're heavily and prone to infections from people who may not be used. Your body isn't used to their germs, I guess. And
Right.
so when I was having my skin grafts, which were every few weeks or every few months, I wasn't allowed to hang out with the kids in the neighborhood. My mom bought me roses, rose plants, and I planted those roses. The first year they didn't live, they died, and I was really sad about it. But she was like, "These roses are gonna be your friends when you can't have friends," and
Oh,
those they were there for me for 5 years. They were there, and I watched them grow and blossom. I would sit out there with my zero form and like my little Bactivin and malfiltration ointment, stitch cream, and all of that. I'll sit out there and just like snip them and like help them live longer. But I learned so much about life, about watching roses grow and understanding that they're a diverse, resilient plant. They're like humans in a way. They go
amen.
through their tough seasons where they wilt, where they kind of lose their petals, but the life is still there, just a little bit is still there. And then they have their season where they blossom, where they grow, where they have their beauty, where they're even more beautiful than they were last year, last bloom. And that's what I put into Admire is that same philosophy that not every day is going to be a great day. Not every season is going to be a great season, but that storm will pass and that season for you to blossom and to be the beautiful flower that you're meant to be in the garden above is coming. And it may be here now and you may wilt soon, but you will always have that life.
Yeah, and you never, yeah, you always have that life you lived right there. How, how many surgeries have you had, Joshua? You said,
61.
and are they still ongoing, or are they just? You said they're leaving that eye, and they. So, have they done any recent surgeries, or were they all when you were 8, or like
Um,
at the
I've
beginning?
had 61 in the past almost 15 years.
Oh,
The last one was getting 61 was just getting my wisdom teeth removed, but the one before that was nasal construction. And so because my nose is man-made and not made by God, it
right.
it tends to falls in and it tends to cause me difficulties breathing. And I continue to fight for having my nose. I'm like, hey, if I got the body parts to use to make it, let's do it. Let's do it because I have hope. I didn't want a prosthetic nose. I didn't want to have prosthetic ears. I was like, hey, if you could make it from me, let's do it. But that time, you're not
I,
able to do that.
I almost lost my ears, but I didn't. Obviously, I can wear earrings now. I never thought that would be like, but they found just enough, like, little bit of skin that my
Mm.
ears are pierced. I don't have a lot of ear, but it works. I figured out how to make what we have work for us, but I was in that same thing. Like, I didn't want a prosthetic nose, so I just don't have nostrils. And now I decided that maybe a prosthetic nose wouldn't be so bad. And I didn't get to, there was an opportunity that I didn't get to take to have a prosthetic nose taken or made just like the tip of my nose
Mhm.
because, people are listen, I've been an influencer for not a long time, but for years. So I've seen a lot of comments. I know about the trolls. I know not to read it. And people are always like, oh, ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. But you know what? We are human. So every time I just happen to catch a pig emoji in my comments, it bothers me so much because people send me that like I look like a pig. And I just want to just like, oh, you know,
Yeah,
just,
I feel you. I'm sorry you have to go through that though. I'm sorry that people that look like me and you have to go through that.
and
But I think people like me and you who are trying to make our faces known on social media and trying to get viral with just honest content, not content of us being entertainment, but honest content to help us go viral so more people could see us and kind of be more accepting of people who look like us so we don't get those kind of emojis or all of these different
right.
kind of messages because it hurts me too. I'm human. I feel
Well,
it.
yeah, I mean, we try not to read the troll comments because we are influencers, but I mean, you saw it happen to Chris Rock.
Yeah.
With we're human, and it just like you doubt yourself sometimes, and I don't want to go too much into that because it doesn't deserve it. But I do want to go back to this comment by Jeanette where she had said a few minutes ago that that conversation with your mom is so powerful, and I really think that it is that your mom is like a champ. It's not easy being mom ever, but in this situation, she really, really nailed it. And then right down to the we'll grow these roses. That's so beautiful.
She
That's so beautiful.
she's
Good job.
awesome, and I always like give her praise. And we've always been through the most roughest and like the thickest things right now. Just in both of our journeys. And when I had my second attempt, um, I was speeding in my car, following a like a physical fight that I had with my ex partner at the time. I was in a abusive relationship, and it was right after Christmas 2020, and I was just like over it. I was like, I'm 20. What is I 21? So I was like, I'm 21 years old. I can't find real love. I'm going through all of this hardship. I was like, I'm the only one growing these like trying to turn these moments into something positive. And I was like, it's hard. I was like, it is so hard. I was like, it's just like it just like accumulated. And I was like, it is so hard.
And it was just like that moment because a lot of times I think that people don't realize maybe with suicide attempts that it can be very I forget words, Joshua, after I was in a coma and my short term memory is bad. Impulsive. There can be some impulsivity to the actual action, even though it's not an impulsive thing because you've been suffering the depression and anxiety or whatever is building and building leading
Yeah.
up to. But the actual act can be just impulsive like that is it, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
So you were speeding in your car and you were just gonna just drive into something.
I
And
was I was really conscious about like I it's I was really conscious about not hurting other people.
good.
And
See, that's who
I
you
just go for it.
no, I said that's who you are.
Yeah.
That's what saved you because you were worried about others.
Yeah, I didn't want to hurt other people. And so while I was speeding, I just kept looking at light poles and looking at different light poles. And I was like, I could do something there, something here, and really visualizing it. But after a while, like I was just sitting, like driving, crying and crying and crying. And something told me to go visit my dad.
Really, because you didn't have much of a relationship with him, did you? Or
Well,
you did
we don't have much relation, but we look very similar. Like I'm built exactly similar to him. Like we have the same head structure, we have the same height, the same body type.
Gotcha.
Well, actually, I'm taller, but we look really similar. And something told me to go see him. And next thing you know, my speed started to go down, and I
Uh,
could feel God like holding the wheel from me. And my mom's spirit is just being there as well.
mm,
And I went to go see my dad, and it was interesting because he was drunk. My dad is an alcoholic, full time alcoholic, and I wanted to drink myself. I wanted to go to the liquor store and get a drink myself, but I knew exactly if I would have got a drink in that moment, I would have became just like him. So I wanted to go see future me in the flesh if I would have made that choice. And I
wow.
saw him, and he was drunk, but he spent some time with me. He talked about it. What was it like for him and my mom? Him and my mom had a domestic violence relationship,
Uh-huh.
and he kind of talked about a lot of his faults, about his anger, and I got to be honest and talk to him about my partner's anger at the time and what we were going through. And then the weirdest thing is that like even though I went there and I told him that I wanted a drink, but I'd rather see him and not have a drink, he actually put a drink in front of me and tested me and see if I wanted to get it. And he offered it the whole entire time while I was there. A bottle of Jack Daniels.
Mm,
And instead of that, I just drank Gatorade the whole entire time. But I went to go see my mom a few hours later, and I told her everything that I went through and that almost happened. And she was like the very first time, like just very there for me. And instead of her forcing me to go to counseling, I checked myself into counseling 2 days later.
that's amazing
I
because
knew how important it was.
that is that's that's amazing. I wanted to read something because when you sent me your biography, one of the things right in the first paragraph, it was very powerful to me. It um, says that I battled things I wasn't honest about, and that is so. Oh, I can feel that. You know that I can. I can't remember my words, but you know what I mean. I battled things I wasn't honest about. I struggled with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. So that's before the suicide attempts started happening. But after you had been attacked by the pit bull, and so now are you working as a photographer at that point? You went to school, and I guess as a photography, were you a photography major or something different? Because it says you're a photographer that uses self portraiture to
Yes.
describe these experiences. And I think that is what is so important. That line I had to highlight. I battled things I wasn't honest about because I believe sitting here right now as Burn Beauty that I sometimes battle things that I am not honest about. Not that I'm lying to you but I'm not honest with myself about them
Right.
sometimes. And I'm therefore not honest with my followers. And I have to work through that. And so that's just such a powerful statement. And so is that what you meant by it? Like
Yeah.
that? Yeah, because
And my honesty came through my art. A lot of the art that I made while I was in college and after college, and before I even went to school, talking about my experience, talking about all of these surgeries, were the honesty. It was the conversations that I felt like I could have without words, like going through the surgeries that me and you have been through. Are surgeries
right.
I would never wish on my enemies. Skin grafts hurt. Skin grafts hurt like crazy. They
Yeah.
look great, but there's a lot that goes into them mentally and physically.
And donor sites are even worse. I really don't like
Yeah,
them. So they hurt. And I tell people, you know, that is another thing. Whenever I do engage a troll on YouTube or whatever, and they're making fun of me having been burned, I'll just say, may this never happen to you. And I had one guy say, well, there you go. You're a nice lady wishing upon me being burned. And I said, no, did you not hear me? I said, may this never, happened to you, and I meant that because you're not strong enough to handle it. So, I mean, there was a little
Yeah.
bit of ugliness in it, but I meant that. May it not, because you have to have a whole different level of fortitude. And for you, I think that your mother is key in this. You
Hmm.
know, is key. Is she in helping you with your strength, don't you think? And I mean, because you've been through that child abuse through your father, right?
Yeah.
And it's just all these things that you could really speak to other people about. And it looks like with Admireware, you tried to pitch the brand to Adobe Creative
Yeah.
residency, but there's probably a lot of people pitching a lot of things post pandemic. Was it about that time?
It was that time. I love kind of talking about this story because now MyAware is a year old, and I was trying to they have a creative residency program where you can kind of pitch an idea to them, and they will help you grow that idea to be a career for you.
Right,
And so originally, Admireware was similar to where it is now, but I had thought about it in a really, really smaller form than how big I made it now. I was thinking about teaching kids about photography and how to use their art to talk about their feelings without actually using words to describe it.
right,
Because when master like using the camera, you can kind of use your eye to capture and document what you're going through, and that
right.
speaks 1,000 words. And I was going to use that to help kids process their trauma, and then outside of that, of them using affirmations that help comfort them when they were going through hard times. Adobe said Admireware wasn't a strong enough ideal, and I was like, okay, that's fine, I take that. But
There,
I felt so passionate and strong about it, and this was also I applied a few months after my second suicide attempt, so I'm still into suicide recovery.
right.
And so my suicide attempt was in December. In March, I had came home from work, and I was at my brink, but not on a suicidal brink, but just giving up and like giving into depression. I was
Mhm.
standing in front of the mirror in my mom's basement bathroom that we built together, and I was standing there. I had a work related injury. I had injured my foot. My foot still hasn't been the same ever since then. But that's another conversation. But I was standing there in the mirror, and instead of being there, what I've done for so many years, I've looked myself in the eyes and I've told myself negative things.
Right.
And this particular time, I was like, I admire you for everything that like you've been through.
It's very important.
And that was I felt like was the first time that after all of these years, after the accident, after all of the trauma that I've been through, that I actually gave myself love and compassion. I gave myself permission, give myself love and compassion. And the next day, like I had the ideal to pitch to Adobe for that residency about helping people admire themselves, and in that admiration admire others too. And that bringing these whole ideas about affirmations and realizing I was like, I'm a suicide survivor, I'm a sexual assault survivor, I'm a child abuse survivor, I'm a cyberbullying survivor, I'm a survivor of bullying, survivor of depression, PTSD, anxiety. I'm a survivor of myself and a survivor of many other different things. I was like, I can potentially use this, even though this hurts. It hurts so much to have it all in my head and to know that I've been through all of this and racism and discrimination. It's like I
Mhm.
could potentially use this to use this gift that God gave me and to try to turn it into something that can help others. Something that I was doing all of the years after the accident, but not really realizing that my story was inspiring people and that I was actually helping people make it another day.
Right.
And
Right,
then
my friend.
boom.
And then, right, it goes boom, all of a
it,
sudden, you
yeah.
know, and Jeanette says, it's holding her back from starting your book. You have to be ready to be completely honest. It's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. And I think if we can get honest, we're not therapists or anything, but I know that for me, when I get honest, when I realize I'm not being honest about something, and I was just dealing with something today where it's like, okay, this has to be dealt with because it will hold you back. And once you realize it, you can then move on and give yourself those affirmations you're talking about. Like, okay, so it is that way, but I'm a good person. I've done this. I do it. I do it every day. I tell myself I'm
Right.
beautiful because beauty is in your heart.
Hmm.
There's nothing that can ever take that away from me and or you. And I tell myself a lot of other things that are just kind of personal as I'm getting ready for the day. Give yourself a pep talk
Yeah.
because what you see here, like with Joshua, I've said so many times that um, as far as dealing with um, tragedies or overcoming adversity, you need to give yourself a pat on the back every time you overcome something. So when you work, do the work and get through your depression, or you do the work and get through what someone has done to you, the anger, the rage, the sometimes guilt. Or even when you just heal physically from something that happened to you, it's all part of the layer cake. Every time you heal from something, you get stronger. And when you get stronger, you're able to deal with more adversities because things are going to keep coming your way.
Yeah.
Are they may not be as big as the things that have come to us. May they not be, if possible, as far as the physical things, but they're going to be as big emotionally because that's life.
Right.
That's life. They're going to be as big emotionally, but every time you get through something, it helps you. And Jeanette, I'll be ready for your book. I need to write one too. We all want to write books, and
Yes, I do have one tip though.
yeah,
After my second attempt, when the concept of a Maya was building, there was one thing that I started to do because I am a huge critic of myself, and that's just because so many people have been a huge critic to me, and so I built their critic inside of me, and so
mm,
I critic myself heavy, but I started to instead of just having big goals like, oh, I want to. I guess the only big goal I think of right now is something that I'm dealing with is like, oh, I want to pay off my student loan debt. That's going to take me years to do that.
right.
But and that is a big goal to look forward to. But that's not a goal that's going to make me happy right now. And every day I wake up and I give myself a small goal, a challenge that I can achieve in that 24-hour span
I like that.
and celebrate that moment. And so today for me, I made garments. I made some orders today. And today I want to break a record because I want to get a little faster at making orders, but still having great quality at the same time. And so today I did 13 garments in the span of an hour and 5 minutes, which was a new record for me. And I felt really proud about that. And
Yeah,
every day I make small little challenges that may be a little hard to reach, but I make them within that 24-hour range, and that keeps me motivated. Like, oh, tomorrow, and if I don't make it, it's okay. I'll have another challenge tomorrow that I can do
that's
that will
called
help me.
that's called failing forward. So you set your goal. I'm going to make 100 pairs of pants today, but you only make it to 95. Well, you just failed forward because without that goal, you normally only make 70. So you failed forward by making 25 more. You've got to see in everything. You've got to see the advancement in it. What you did that was better. It's a principle that I used to use in real estate. Uh, failed. You just, it's not a failure. You're moving
Yeah,
forward, fail
and
forward.
you're learning every step of the way.
And what do you do with your, you make the garments by hand yourself. Eventually, like after tonight, after all my friends buy some, you're gonna have too many orders. And
Nah, it's never enough because I'm excited that people get to add a Maya wear to their journey. They get to add something that that
I
will help spark hope on their darkest days, on their rainy days. They'll be wearing something or having it and being like, "Well, today I need this. Like I need this. I need this saying today."
I needed this on my back today. What does it say? Let me turn around. Can you see it, or do I need to move my chair?
No, we can see it. I just want to tell you that you are loved and forever loved. That's what it says on the back.
That you were left. Sorry, guys, about the
No,
sorry
it's
podcast
fine.
people. I want everyone to see it because when I saw the back, I knew it was there because I looked at it, but I forgot. And when I saw it, I was so delighted because I needed that today. Even me, Burn Beauty needs help too. So, what do you do with the proceeds from the admireware? Do you have a nonprofit set up yet, or do you
Uh,
make donations? Or
15% of all of my proceeds goes to nonprofit mental health organizations. One of the big ones that I've donated to, I've donated like almost a little bit over $6,000 to, is to Write Love on Her Arms. I don't know if
oh,
you've ever heard of that.
my daughter. I should say, but yes, yes. Do I love in her arms? I love that.
I
So
really love what they're doing, and they use the money to not only spark hope and like help people, but a lot of their money is used to create scholarships that help people have who cannot afford mental health counseling have a scholarship to where they can have us like I think it's 6 months or a year worth of free mental health counseling.
that's the other thing that you and I spoke about, where you said you tried to get some counseling, and the price is so um,
It's
terrible.
high.
It's just really high for a lot of people, and you know, I want to be able to, after thinking about it with you, as I'm building my nonprofit, Burn Beauty Inc., you know, burns are where I started as my home. That's what I'm, that's what Burn Beauty Inc. is about. Burn Ambition is not. It's about all survivors. But my nonprofit right now is about helping burn survivors, and they do need mental health care. And I'm hoping to get grants and things so that I can help them get that care that they need, because without it, things are really, really bleak. They're really bleak. And we should all be able to get that mental health care. And unfortunately, it's just not the way things are right now. But do you know, are there any other scholarships? Or I would love to be able to do something like that, like create a scholarship for people who you want people to demonstrate the need financially, and then be able to say, yes, this will go, you can use this to go through your mental health journey. But then, $500 an hour. No.
Yeah, that was that hit me heavy when they said that to me, because it was because I need a counselor that specializes in trauma therapy and PTSD, and it's like you guys are kind of putting a price on my trauma. That made it hard for me. And one thing I appreciate is when I had my second attempt, I had took money out my savings to pay for me to go to counseling for 6 months, and then after 6 months, that savings account went to zero, and I wasn't able to afford counseling. But we had set up this plan to where I would have all of these like PDFs and resources that I can follow throughout time. That way, I can kind of be a counselor to myself. And there was one book There's one book that has really helped me post like not having counseling is this book. This book is a very heavy hitter. It's very emotional. Each chapter, I would definitely say, like, don't try to read the whole book in one day.
And
But the Adverse Childhood Experiences Recovery Workbook has been a counselor for me post having counseling. And it's taught me so much about myself, about what I've been through, and kind of giving myself a hug. And teaching me breathing techniques to help me through anxiety. And
right,
I found that to be affordable and helpful. And so when I talk to people that who are going through a hard time and may need something but don't have access to counseling, I recommend the book. I always recommend that book. And a lot of people have told me that they bought it, they were skeptical of it, but they bought it, and if they've been into it and they do what I do, they don't do the whole book in one sitting because it is really emotional. It does ask you to answer a lot of questions. They do it at their leisure, and it has been helping people.
is it for everyone really? Because we've all had childhood trauma,
It is for everyone. It isn't just for like
like
I guess
physical.
me being like me having trauma related experiences. It's open ended, and you can navigate that book in different chapters. You don't have to just start from chapter one. You can go through a chapter that you feel like will be best helpful in that moment, and I found that to be affordable for me to kind of work on my mental health during times like this. And I have a system too. I think it's important for everyone to kind of develop a certain system where they know that they're, and I write it down. There's a list of things that will forever make me happy. And the hardest things: pizza, honey buns, video games, and nature walks, and nature and roses. So if I'm having a day where I actually might think a suicidal thought, I'll try to go do one of those things. Eat a honey bun, which is $1. It's just 99 cents in some places. Go on a nature walk if I have the gas money. Buy roses or have roses shipped to me if I have the money for that. And if I don't, I'm going to use a credit card, and I might regret it. But I'm going to have these roses to help me during this really hard time. I'm gonna play video games. If we have Wi-Fi, I'm gonna play video games with my friends. And knowing that those core things, that regardless of what day I'm in, those things will forever be a happy spot for me, helps me balance, kind of get out of a suicidal thought and a low point. I didn't have that checklist beforehand, but now I kind of have this system in place where if I ever relapse, and it's okay to relapse. Relapse isn't something that someone should be bullied for relapsing with drug abuse or mental health, or relapsing from even seeing a person that they shouldn't be seeing. Um, it's all about trial and error and learning. And relapse will happen with anyone trying to overcome some sort of adversity. Things will happen, emotions will happen, things may come back, but it's often great to support and to celebrate the moments of that growth, and to know like, okay, you had this low point. All right, well, next time this time going forward, we're gonna work really hard, and we're gonna hope for 6 months, 6 months without a thought or without an attempt or without drinking or without using drugs, and we're gonna celebrate that 6 months. So with me, I celebrate every anniversary since my last suicide attempt. So I was doing every month, I was doing every week, every month, every 6 months. And now I do every year. I celebrate that day. I go get me some takeout food, or I go and buy myself some roses, and just have a day to celebrate the moment that I could have not been here, but I'm thankful to be here. And it's important to celebrate those journeys because
Yes,
it means a lot to you as a person, but it means a lot to everyone around you, that your presence is valuable and that your life is meaningful and that the world
and
isn't the same without you.
the world would not be the same without you, my friend. And if you would message me that book when you get a chance,
I
because I
got you.
already don't remember, but that I would like to refer that. But we're out of time, and I dread that. But the one question I do have time for is what's next for you, Joshua? What's the plan?
What's next for me? I'm really excited is that with Admireware expanding, I do want to hopefully have a team of people who support Admireware beliefs and wants to help others. I eventually want to host in person events around the country, do a little like road trip, and to not only like sell T-shirts and sell garments on the road, but also host the event where people can share their story, where they can find someone in their town, in their community, that have went through something maybe similar to them, and where they can build a relationship, build a friend, have a friend, to know that they're not alone in their experiences and their journeys, to know that it doesn't just have to be me who is in this virtual screen, but to know that there are people who are surrounded by them, who feel that pain, who have been through something similar to that, who can give you a hug and
Yes,
just let you know that you're not alone in that. So I'm excited to. I'm working towards it. I'm really working really hard towards having that dream achieved.
you're doing great. I have sort of the same dream. That's why I do the podcast. It's not for the entertainment. It's for it's great to tell your story. It's very healing in and of itself, but it's also healing for other people to hear it and understand that they are not alone. Like, oh, wow, there's a, you can always take away something from every one of these survivor stories, no matter what kind of type of survivor you are. But I want to create, like you, like just all these recordings that people can go to and oh, pitbull attacker, oh, the burns are ladder, oh, and actually hear what they're struggling with and how did that person overcome that, because it's not just, oh, I prayed, I did that. There's very specific actions. You have to show up for it every day. You're giving yourself positive affirmations. You're saying, I love honey buns. I love my first pet was named Honey Bun, by the way. It's a great cat. You've got a plan. It's very particular. So just remember that if you're out there and you're going through it, especially if you're having suicidal thoughts, suicide prevention hotline is 1-800-273-8255, or you can text 741-741. Oh, and now you can call 988. That's a new
Yes,
day. Yes.
yes,
Just dial 988 if you're in an emergency. Domestic abuse, you can find all these on there, and I've listed them on my other podcast. But please know that these situations require your attention in order for them to get better. They don't get better on their own. And that if you're recovering like from burns, it doesn't just go away. You show up for it every day. You figure out who you are. You work through your therapy. You work through any support groups. You meet as many people as you can that are like you. And you realize that the beauty's in here, and you try to live without the fear of what other people think, because it doesn't. You can't make everybody happy. So I love your
amen.
voices. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying amen to that. And to also to add to that note is that I don't believe in the term perfect or imperfect.
Right.
For years after that, I would say like a nice amount of years after the accident, I wanted to be perfect again. I wanted to be back
Yes.
to 100%. And then there was a realization that hit right before I was like 16. I was like, this is me. This is me, and this is how as normal as I'm gonna get, and this is normalcy for me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this I'm okay with this. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. Only one's perfect is God and his son.
Yeah.
And I'm perfect in his image. And if this is what the image that he wanted me to be, then I'm gonna do the best that I can to honor that. To
It
honor
is.
that image.
And if this is the image I was to be in, then I shall honor it. So thank you all for joining us. I want you to remember to follow Joshua on Instagram at admireware underscore, or is it
Yeah, not
at,
at my word underscore.
okay, at admireware underscore. Follow him because he makes such beautiful posts. And whether you know are looking in the business for t-shirts and joggers yet, you will be. But follow him because his posts are real, and they reminded me just to be real again. Things start to get confused, so follow him. And if you've watched this episode live, we thank you so much. I know lots of people watch it as a recording, so we thank you for tuning in. Would you please subscribe, like, share, comment, because that is how Joshua and I reach other survivors. That is how we get to be better known, and that is all we ask. So, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and whatever you're going through, remember that this too shall pass. Bye. You guys,
Bye.
see y'all next week. And remember, at admireware underscore, and we love you.
Love you guys.